Imagine a celestial king, a really powerful being, so driven by curiosity, this intense need for answers, that he travels all the way from his heavenly home down to Earth just to meet one specific person.
Yeah, and it's not just some fanciful story. This ancient narrative, it's like a doorway really into wisdom that still feels incredibly relevant to us now.
It absolutely does. So today we're taking a deep dive into an ancient text. It's called the Sakkapañhasuttaṃ.
Which translates basically as Sakka's questions.
Right. And our source material for this deep dive is a direct translation of this text. It details this really extraordinary meeting between the Buddha and Sakka, who's the king of the devas, the gods.
And what we want to do here, our mission, let's say, is to unpack this whole fascinating story.
Yeah, not just for the narrative itself, but to pull out the really deep insights and honestly the practical wisdom that's kind of embedded in there.
We'll be looking at these big universal questions about why we act the way we do, about suffering, about finding peace.
And hopefully help you find some of those aha moments, those connections between these ancient teachings and, well, your life today.
Okay, so let's set the scene a bit. We're in ancient Magadha, specifically east of a place called Rajagaha, at this quiet spot, the Indasala cave on Vedyaka mountain.
And that's where the Buddha is.
Exactly. He's there, deep in meditation, very serene.
Until Sakka shows up, presumably. So we meet Sakka, this mighty king of the Tavatisa devas, and he has this, urgent feeling, this longing to meet the Buddha.
Yeah, the text says he's thinking, where is the Blessed One dwelling now? And then, boom, he just knows. He realizes the Buddha's on Vedyaka mountain. Divine GPS, maybe?
Huh, maybe. But he doesn't just pop down alone, does he?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
He gathers his entourage, the Tavatisa devas, and crucially, he invites this celestial musician, Pañcasikha. He's a gandharva.
And Pañcasikha brings his instrument?
Yes, his special Vevopanava, his lute.
And their arrival.
Oh, it's quite something. Oh, it's dramatic. They appear instantly on the mountain, but with such power and light that the whole mountain and even the nearby village, Ambasant, just light up brilliantly.
Wow. So the locals must have been
Terrified. Absolutely terrified. The text says they thought the mountain was on fire. It caused fear and hair-raising anxiety. You really get a sense of this overwhelming divine presence.
Okay, so grand entrance made.
Yeah.
But then Sakka hits a snag.
Sort of a celestial awkwardness, yeah. He realizes that Tathagatas, Buddhas, are actually quite difficult to approach for beings like him, especially when they're deep in meditation. You can't just walk up.
So what does he do?
He asks Pañcasikha, the musician, to go first, to sort of appease the Buddha, as the text puts it, like an icebreaker.
A divine icebreaker. So Pañcasikha steps up.
Right. He finds a spot, respectful distance, where the Buddha can hear him, and starts playing his lute and singing these verses.
And this is where it gets interesting, because the songs aren't quite what you'd expect.
Not entirely. They do touch on the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, the Arahants, the holy stuff. But mixed right in there is this incredibly passionate love poem.
A love poem.
To whom? To a Gandharva maiden named Pada Suryavakasa. She's the daughter of Timburu.
Wow. So sacred themes and romantic pining side by side.
Exactly. And the imagery is really vivid. He compares her to, water for a thirsty person, medicine for the sick, even a cool pond for a hot elephant.
He's really laying it on thick.
Oh, yeah. Deep longing, total infatuation. He even wishes his good karma, his merits, would basically result in him getting together with her. It's this fascinating mix, the sacred and the deeply personal, maybe even sensual.
So how does the Buddha react to this unique performance?
Well, first, he notes the technical skill, the perfect harmony between the lute and the voice. Then he asks Pañcasikha, when did you compose these verses? Acknowledging their unusual blend.
And Pañcasikha tells him the story.
He does, very openly. He says he wrote them right after the Buddha's enlightenment. He was head over heels for Pada, but she was already involved with someone else, Sikanti.
Awkward.
Very. So since he couldn't win her over directly, he sang these verses at her father's place.
And did it work?
In a way, yes. Pada hadn't met the Buddha, but she'd heard about him from other devas. And because Pañcasikha's song praised the Buddha, that made her agree to meet Pañcasikha.
Ah, so the praise for the Buddha was the key.
Precisely. That one meeting they had was a direct result of the song. It kind of shows how devotion, even when mixed with other strong emotions, can still open doors, even in the heavens.
That's a great little story, and it kind of sets up Sakka's own persistence, doesn't it? He mentions trying to meet the Buddha before.
Yeah, he explains this wasn't his first attempt. He tried once before in Savatthi, but the Buddha was deep in meditation, totally absorbed.
So he couldn't get through.
Nope. He actually asked a female attendant of another divine being, Vasavona, this attendant named Bujagi, to pass on his greetings. But she just told him, the Buddha's in seclusion, can't be disturbed.
But did the Buddha know Sakka had tried?
He did. This is fascinating. The Buddha confirms Bujagi did pass on the message later. And he adds that he actually came out of that deep meditation specifically because of the sound of Sakka's greetings.
Really? Just the sound of greetings?
Yeah, he compares it to the sound of a wheel rim. It suggests this incredible sensitivity, this awareness the Buddha had, even in profound states. Sakka's intention registered somehow.
That's amazing. And then Sakka makes this observation about, well, the cosmic impact of the Buddha.
Right. He says he's heard, and now he sees it himself, that whenever a Tathagata, a Buddha, appears in the world, something shifts in the heavens.
What kind of shift?
The number of beings reborn in the Tadlesa heaven, his realm, goes up, while the number of asuras, their adversaries, goes down.
So the Buddha's presence has this ripple effect, promoting positive rebirths.
Exactly. It underlines the huge spiritual influence radiating outwards from the Buddha.
And Sakka gives an example of this.
He does, a really powerful one, the story of Gopika. She was a Sakya maiden from the Buddha's own homeland, Kapilavatthu.
Okay, what about her?
She was incredibly devout, totally dedicated to the Buddha, Dhamma, Sakka, kept all the moral precepts perfectly. But then she did something interesting. She cultivated a male mind.
A male mind. What do they mean in this context?
Well, the result was that when she passed away, she wasn't reborn as a female, but as a male deva, right there in Sakka's Tuvatisa heaven. She even became like a son to Sakka, known as Gopaka Deva.
Wow. So devotion and mental cultivation literally changed her form and status in the next life, even across gender.
Precisely. It's a strong statement about the power of intention and practice, that it transcends conventional boundaries like gender.
But that's not the end of Gopaka's story, is it?
No, Sakka continues. He contrasts Gopaka's success with 3 monks who had practiced under the Buddha but somehow ended up reborn in a lower realm, the gandharva world.
The musician realm again. What happened to them?
They were just indulging in sensual pleasures, sort of backsliding spiritually. And Gopaka Deva, the former Gopika, finds them and basically tells them off.
Really? Scolds them?
Yeah, quite sharply. He points out his own journey, human female to higher-ranking male Deva, through pure devotion, and contrasts it with their failure, falling into lower pleasures despite being monks under the Buddha.
It must have been quite a wake-up call.
It was. For 2 of them, anyway. That strong reproach, hearing it from someone who'd made such progress, shocked them back into mindfulness. They transformed right then and there and ascended to an even higher realm, the Brahma Purohita world.
Higher than Sakka's own retinue?
Even higher, yeah. Showing immense spiritual purity regained. But the 3rd monk
Stayed stuck.
remained attached to his sensual pleasures in the Gandharva realm. It's a stark reminder, isn't it, that the path requires continuous effort, continuous mindfulness. It's not just about past practice.
Absolutely. So after all this incredible background setting the stage, showing Sakka's sincerity and understanding,
The Buddha sees it too. He recognizes Sakka's pure intention, his quick grasp of things, and invites him, ask me whatever you wish.
and this is where we get to the core questions, the Sakkapañha itself.
Exactly. This is the heart of it. Sakka's first question goes straight to, well, a problem we see everywhere, all the time.
Which is?
He asks why beings, humans, gods, everyone, even though they wish they could live peacefully, without hostility, without violence, without getting angry at each other, why do they keep doing it anyway? Why all the conflict?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? What's the Buddha's answer?
It's incredibly direct. 2 words, essentially. Isamakharya.
Envy and stinginess.
Envy and stinginess. That feeling of wanting what someone else has, resenting their success, and that urge to hoard what's yours, to not share, to be mean or miserly. That's where the hostility starts.
Okay, so that's the immediate cause. But Sakka digs deeper.
He does. He asks, okay, if envy and stinginess are the problem, what causes them? Where did they come from?
And the answer?
Piyapya. Likes and dislikes. Things we find pleasant, things we find unpleasant. Attachments and aversions.
Ah, so it's our judgments, what we're drawn to, and what we push away. That makes sense. What's next in the chain?
What causes the likes and dislikes, the piyapya? The Buddha says it's chanda.
Desire.
Mm,
Or maybe lust is sometimes used.
yeah, or volitional impulse, that initial wanting, that drive towards something or away from something, the impulse itself.
Okay, desire comes from likes and dislikes. No, wait, likes and dislikes come from desire. So where does the desire, the chanda, come from?
Now we're getting closer to the cognitive root. The Buddha says chanda arises from vitakka.
Vitakka, initial thought, directed thought.
Exactly, that first flicker of thought that directs the mind towards an object. Before the wanting, there's the noticing, the thinking about it.
Okay, so we're almost there.
Mhm.
What sparks that initial thought, the vitakka?
This is the deepest level Sakka asks about. The Buddha identifies the source as Sakka.
That's a mouthful. What does it mean? Conceptual proliferation.
Yes, conceptual proliferation. Or you could think of it as the mind's tendency to elaborate, to spread out, to create complex stories and concepts based on perception. It's how we take a simple sensory input or mental event and just run with it.
Can you give an example? Like, how did that work in practice?
Sure. Imagine someone cuts you off in traffic. The initial perception is just car moved into my lane. That's simple.
Okay.
But papañaka kicks in immediately. Your mind starts proliferating. That idiot, he did that on purpose. He thinks he owns the road. People like him are ruining everything. This is going to make me late. My whole day is ruined now.
Ah, I see. It's spinning a whole narrative, layering judgments and assumptions onto a basic event.
Exactly. That whole cascade of thoughts, that's conceptual proliferation. And that, the Buddha says, is the fertile ground from which specific thoughts, vitakka, arise, which then lead to desire, chanda, then like dislikes, pyapya, then envistinginess, asamacharya, and finally manifest as hostility and conflict.
Wow. That's an incredibly detailed chain of cause and effect, leading from our inner mental chatter right out to external conflict.
It really is. It maps out how so much of our suffering originates right here in the way our minds process reality.
So if our proliferation is the root, the obvious next question is crucial. How do you stop it? How does a practitioner, a monk in this case, halt that process?
Right. And the Buddha's answer here isn't just stop thinking, it's much more nuanced. He talks about our feelings, joy, somanasa, displeasure, domanasa, and even equanimity, upaka.
Okay, how do feelings relate to stopping proliferation?
He says each of these states has two aspects, or rather can be approached in two ways. Something to be cultivated or something not to be cultivated.
Okay, so you have to discern which is which. How?
The principle is the key. You look at the consequences. If cultivating a particular feeling, whether it's a type of joy, a type of displeasure, or even a form of equanimity, leads to an increase in unwholesome states.
Like greed, hatred, delusion.
Exactly. And a decrease in wholesome states, like generosity, kindness, wisdom, then that specific feeling in that specific context should not be cultivated. You recognize it as unhelpful and let it go.
And the opposite.
Conversely, if cultivating it leads to a decrease in the unwholesome stuff and an increase in the wholesome stuff, then that feeling, that experience should be cultivated. You lean into it, develop it.
And this applies whether the feeling just pops up or comes after some thought?
Yes, though he notes that applying this discernment to feelings arising without initial thought is subtler, more refined. But the basic principle is the same. Watch the impact on your mind. This mindful discernment, the Buddha says, is the path to stopping that conceptual proliferation. It's about actively shaping your inner landscape.
That's very practical. It's not just about feeling good, but about cultivating feelings that lead to genuine well-being and abandoning those that don't.
Precisely. And this same principle gets applied outwards, too.
How so? Sakka asks more questions based on this.
Yes. He asks about paramokkha, restraint, basically, moral conduct. How does a monk practice that?
And the Buddha uses the same framework.
Exactly the same. Actions of the body, actions of speech, even one's livelihood, each can be assessed. Does this action increase wholesome states and decrease unwholesome ones? If yes, cultivate it. If no, don't cultivate it. Refrain from it.
So it's a constant ethical evaluation based on internal results.
Yes. Not just following rules blindly, but understanding why certain actions are skillful or unskillful based on their mental consequences.
Okay, makes sense. And then there's one more area.
Sense restraint. How does a monk practice restraint regarding what comes in through the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and even the mind itself?
And let me guess. Same principle.
You got it. How you engage with sights, sounds, smells, tastes, touches, mental objects, each interaction can be assessed. Does engaging in this way lead to more wholesome states or more unwholesome ones? Cultivate or don't cultivate accordingly.
It's incredibly consistent. And Sakka gets this.
Immediately. The text says he expresses clear understanding. It's like this principle unlocks the whole approach to practice for him.
This whole chain, from papañcaka down to hostility, and then the method for working with it, through cultivating the wholesome, it really feels like a complete psychological roadmap.
It is, and it's amazing to think this detailed analysis of the mind's workings was laid out thousands of years ago. It directly addresses the roots of our personal conflicts and, by extension, social unrest. It's not just theory, it's intensely practical.
Definitely food for thought for, well, for all of us trying to navigate our own minds.
Mm.
Okay, so after this deep dive into causality, Sakka shifts perspective a bit.
Yeah, he asks a couple of broader questions about the spiritual landscape, so to speak. First, he asks if all these different ascetics and Brahmins out there, all the various spiritual teachers and practitioners, do they all share one view? One way of conduct, one desire, one ultimate goal.
Given the variety of paths even today, I suspect the answer is no.
You suspect correctly. The Buddha gives a clear no. He says the world is diverse in elements, meaning full of different views, different natures. And he points out that beings tend to cling fiercely to their own specific view, believing this alone is true, anything else is false.
It sounds familiar. It highlights that inherent diversity, but also the human tendency towards dogmatism.
Precisely. Which leads directly into Sakka's next, very logical question.
Which is?
Okay, if everyone has different views and ways, do they all ultimately achieve the final goal? Do all these paths lead to ultimate security, the ultimate holy life, the ultimate conclusion?
And again, given the previous answer, probably not.
Right. Again, the Buddha says no. He then makes a very crucial distinction. He says only those monks who are freed by the destruction of craving, that term, the Chasokkaya Vimutta, only they achieve the ultimate goal, the ultimate liberation.
So it's not about the specific label or school or practice method in itself, but about whether it leads to the actual uprooting of craving.
Exactly. That's the defining criterion for ultimate success on the path, according to the Buddha here. It's a very pointed clarification.
How does Sakka react to all this? He's finally gotten answers to these deep questions.
He's immensely relieved and grateful. He basically says, you've done it. You've removed this arrow of doubt that's been stuck in me for so long. He emphasizes that no other ascetic or Brahmin could answer these things for him.
And he contrasts the Buddha with those other teachers.
He does, and it's quite telling. He says when he asked them these questions before, they often couldn't answer and would just deflect. They'd ask him about himself, who are you? How did you become king of the gods?
Well, they were more interested in him than in the answers.
Yeah. He'd tell them his story, how he attained his divine status through merit, and they'd just be impressed, satisfied simply having seen him. They effectively became his disciples or admirers, not the other way around. And Sakka points out the irony. He, Sakka, is actually a stream enterer, someone who has already entered the path to enlightenment and is assured of reaching it eventually, whereas they, the teachers he consulted, just became his fans, essentially. It really highlights the difference in depth between the Buddha's understanding and others.
That's a powerful contrast. And it leads the Buddha to ask Sakka something personal.
Yes. The Buddha asks Sakka if he's ever felt such joy, such satisfaction before.
And has he?
Sakka says yes, he has felt great joy before. Specifically, he recalls the immense joy he felt after a major battle where the devas finally defeated the asuras, a moment of victory and relief.
But he makes a distinction, doesn't he?
A crucial one. He says that joy, the joy of military victory, was associated with rod and weapon. It came from conflict, from overcoming an enemy. And importantly, it did not lead towards liberation, not towards disillusionment, dispassion, calm, enlightenment, or nibbana.
It was just sort of worldly triumph.
Exactly. But the joy he feels now from hearing the Buddha's Dhamma, from understanding these truths, this joy, he says, is completely free from rod and weapon. It doesn't come from conflict.
And it does lead towards liberation.
Yes. He explicitly states this joy does lead to disillusionment, dispassion, cessation, calm, direct knowledge, enlightenment, nibbana. It's a fundamentally different kind of joy, a liberating joy, not just a circumstantial one.
That distinction between worldly joy and liberating joy is so important.
It really is. And this newfound, profound joy gives Sakka incredible confidence about his own spiritual future. He actually lays out 6 specific reasons for his rejoicing, which reveal his path forward.
6 reasons. What are they?
Okay, first, he knows he'll remain a deva for now, his current lifespan extended because of this encounter. Second, after this life ends, he foresees being reborn as a human.
Back to human form.
Yes, but significantly reborn undiluted, in a state where his mind delights in the path. Third, as that human, he will live wisely, mindfully, fully engaged within the Buddhist dispensation, the teachings.
So continuing the practice seriously.
Exactly. Fourth, he sees that if full enlightenment, arahantship, is possible for him in that future human life, then that will be his ultimate end of suffering. Fifth, if not full enlightenment then, after that human life, he'll be reborn again as a deva, but this time in the highest deva realms.
Higher than his current Tavatisa realm.
Much higher.
Yeah.
And sixth, his final destiny, his ultimate dwelling place before final nibbana, will be among the akanitha devas and the pure abodes, the highest possible heavenly existence, reserved for non-returners. This signals his irreversible progress towards liberation.
That's an incredibly detailed and confident projection of his spiritual journey across lifetimes.
It shows the clarity and certainty that arose from understanding the Dhamma, and the impact wasn't just on Sakka.
What happened?
As the Buddha was explaining these profound truths right then and there, Sakka himself and 80,000 other devas who were present listening.
80,000.
80,000. They all simultaneously gained the Dhammakaku.
The Dhamma eye, the eye of truth.
Yes. They had a direct insight, a realization of the fundamental principle. Whatever is subject to origination is subject to cessation. The core understanding of impermanence and the nature of reality that opens the door to liberation.
Wow. An entire assembly having a breakthrough moment together. That's incredible.
It truly is, and it underscores why this whole discourse, this whole sutta, is named the way it is.
Sakkapañhasuttaṃ.
Sakka's questions. Because it was his initiative, his sincere inquiry, that led to this profound teaching and this mass awakening.
What an amazing journey we've covered, really following Sakka from, this powerful but curious divine king all the way to becoming a dedicated learner on the path, gaining profound insights.
Absolutely. We've tracked that whole chain he asked about, envy, desire, all the way back to that mental proliferation, that Pañcasikha, and we saw the Buddha's method for working with it.
Yeah, that whole principle of discerning what to cultivate and what not to cultivate based on whether it leads to wholesome or unwholesome states, it's so practical.
And it's just remarkable, isn't it, that this figure, Sakka, a king of gods, wasn't seeking more power, more divine luxuries.
No, he was seeking answers to suffering, liberation from the subtle stuff that clearly affects even beings in heavenly realms.
Right, and that shift he described from the joy of rod and weapon, of conflict, to the joy of wisdom, of Dhamma, that's such a powerful lesson in itself.
It really is. It makes you think, doesn't it?
Definitely.
If a being like Sakka, a king of gods, needed to so carefully examine his own mind, his joys, his thoughts, his actions, to find real lasting peace, well, what does that suggest about the kind of attention and effort we might need to bring to understanding our own minds?
Yeah, how much effort do we need to put into cultivating genuine well-being in our own, often messy, human lives? It's a powerful challenge, really. A call to look inward with the same kind of sincerity Sakka showed.